Good morning. Pursuant to KRS 61.826 and OAG 20-05, the state of emergency regarding the threats to public health presented by the novel coronavirus or COVID-19 pandemic and municipal order, this meeting of the Paris City Commission is conducted by video conference. All city commission meetings may be attended by the public by viewing the video conference at the city's Facebook page online at Facebook Live, https://www.facebook.com/City of Paris KY. Mayor, it is 9 a.m. Ready to conduct the business.
Thank you, Darren. Call meeting to order, please. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Sullivan, do a roll call, please.
Mayor Plummer,
Here.
Commissioner Brooks,
Here.
Commissioner Roberts,
Here.
Commissioner Gabbard,
Here.
Commissioner Gibson.
Here.
We have a quorum and ready for the transaction of business.
Thank you. Mayor and Commissioner, the first item this morning on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from regular meeting of February the 9th, 2021. These have been previously electronically distributed for your review, and at your pleasure, we'll entertain a motion. A motion by Brooks, a second by Mayor Plummer for the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting for February the 9th, 2021. Any additions, corrections, or deletions to those minutes? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, would you have a roll call, please?
Mayor Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Roberts,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Gabbard,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Gibson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll move on to old business action items. First is boards and commission application, the update based on the conversation and the information supplied at the last meeting. Ms. Morton has also taken some documents that we had internal and compiled those into for your review as a typical application. And Aaron, you want to speak to us on that matter, please?
I mean, it kind of covers everything that they had on theirs, but also matches what our employment application, volunteer application, looks like. And, hope you guys, if you have anything that you want to add or change, just let me know. And it is a fillable PDF that we can add to the website.
Any additions or changes to that form that the commission would like to see? We'll place it up on the website. Questions from Ms. Morton on this matter?
Thanks for your work.
Thank you. We'll move on to next item under old business action item. This is municipal order to apply for COVID-19 CDBG grant funding. And on page 9 of your packet, you do have the municipal order. This is related to our previous conversation about the availability of CDBG funding for COVID-19 utility assistance program. And this, and I apologize, I didn't have the order number, but it is 2021-. Municipal order authorizing the application for the HUD Community Development Block Grant COVID-19 Utility Assistance Program. Whereas the City of Paris combined utilities and other utility providers have accumulated unprecedented levels of past due payable accounts suffered from the effects of COVID-19, and whereas controlling restrictions issued by Commonwealth of Kentucky has limited the ability of utility providers to be made whole for past due accounts, and whereas funding has become available through the Department of Local Government to assist people who have been directly affected by the pandemic in paying their utility bills, and whereas it is the intent of the City of Paris to participate in the program funding, now therefore be it resolved by the City Commission of the City of Paris, Kentucky, that the city is authorized to apply for participation in the HUD Community Development Block Grant COVID-19 Utility Assistance Program, and the mayor is directed to execute any and all applications and agreements. It's the pleasure of the commission. Motion by Brooks, is there a second? Second by Gibson. I heard multiple seconds, is that correct?
That's fine.
Okay. Second by Gibson. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Roberts, Commissioner Gabbard,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Gibson,
Yes.
Mayor Plummer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll move on to an update from our city attorney, Mr. Bowman, in regards to tower leases.
So we had a little back and forth with Columbia Gas.
What's on tower leases? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was looking down at my iPad. So on the tower leases, things are moving along well with T-Mobile. They've been very responsive since we gave them a date. Mr. Brooks and I get an email about every 3 or 4 days. So they, they're all spread out across the country, asked to sign everything electronically. It's, of course, on our end. So the last email I got from her, and she's kind of wanted the order that we got her signature, so I have that from them. So that'll take care of that. On the AT&T side, for some reason, they need to confirm the equipment that's on the tower, and I had emailed him, representative, to find out when that would happen, and he didn't know. I encouraged them to give us a date, or otherwise I would ask you all to give. Now it's just about getting signatures.
Questions of Mr. Bowman on tower leases?
Thank you for the time spent.
Well, I was so excited about the Columbia Gas easement. I just jumped forward, right?
No, I was really worried. I thought, how are they doing that?
Columbia Gas has switched their business model to.
We're good.
All right, thank you, Brent. Now, municipal order for Columbia Gas related easement and state.
Right, so based on what you all had addressed last time, they had given us a date which they had anticipated to be at the end of the year, so they requested it to be December 31st. And of course, I told them, as long as everything's operating fine and everyone's communicating well, whatever time they need, we all understand. And so with the option that they may need to ask for more time. So 2 things really that are at issue here, just to refresh everybody's memory. There's the permanent right-of-way that they would have on that vacant land as well as you look at the map on the left side of the creek. And on the right side of the creek, it's got temporary area staging all their equipment and leaving it. So we have one permanent agreement and one temporary agreement. The temporary agreement is what would extend through December 31st. The permanent one is there as long as their pipelines would be there. So within that easement, because we have to sign that now, we've added a paragraph that makes it clear that if they violate the temporary agreement, and it's terminated by the city, that would also terminate their permanent easement. That way the 2 are tied together. The only change that they've requested on the permanent easement was that it was forfeited if we actually do it. I've got no problem with that. So then on the temporary easement, they'd asked for 2 changes that I got last night. It's a little different than what's in your packet, but I think really inconsequential among them. One in 7A, paragraph 7A, which is on 2. We required them to have a pre-construction meeting with city officials. They just asked that that meeting be open to members of the public. And I think that was our intention anyway, so adding that to the agreement is fine to me. And then at the top of page 3 in paragraph 8, that's basically that if they're failing to perform under the agreement, that we have to provide them written notice about what they're doing wrong. I think that's fair enough. So that there's a clear record. So those are the changes that they've asked to the temporary agreement, the permanent agreement. They're all fine with me, fine with you all. So questions, I'm happy to answer them. Let's just ask for a municipal order approving easement and the temporary.
Sign this agreement.
Start working.
We have a motion by Gibson in regards to the matter with Columbia Gas. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Galbraith. And this is to authorize the execution of any unnecessary documents on the agreements and for municipal order approving the agreements and easements with Columbia Gas. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you have roll call, please?
Commissioner Roberts? Commissioner Galbraith?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Gibson? Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks? Motion carries.
Thank you. Move on to new business action items. First is a proclamation recognizing Garrett A. Morgan Day. Mayor Plummer.
Would you pass them on down for me? Today I have the privilege of issuing a proclamation to honoring a native son. Before doing so, I've given each of you all a copy, print out by Hopewell Museum, and it's a brief history of Mr. Morgan. As you can see, he was born in 1877 in Claysville. During my teenage years, I found out that a man from Paris, Kentucky invented the three-wheel snot flight. To me, it was pretty amazing to come from Paris, Kentucky. In reading about Mr. Morgan, I see a young boy who never graduated from high school, became racial discrimination in hard times, become a nationally renowned inventor. Here's a man that invented something that is still being used today. I will have to say that the stoplight is sometimes irritating. But I think the confusion that would exist without it. Thank goodness for Mr. Morgan. In March of 2020, road signs have been installed on Paris Pike and the bypass of East Main Street. Just read the proclamations this time. I'll take the mask off so people, public can understand me or hear me. Okay. Proclamation to designate March 4th, 2021 as Garrett Morgan Day in Paris, Kentucky. Whereas Garrett Augustus Morgan Sr. was born on March 4, 1877 and passed away July 27, 1963. He was an African-American inventor, businessman, and community leader. Whereas Morgan was born in 1877 in the Claysville area of Paris, an almost exclusively African-American community. His father was Sidney Morgan, a son and freed slave of Confederate General John H. Morgan of Morgan Raiders. His mother, also a freed slave, was Elizabeth Reed, daughter of Reverend Garrett Reed Morgan, who received an education up to 6th grade at the Branch Elementary School in Claysville. Whereas Morgan became involved in the civic and political advancement of African Americans through co-founding the Cleveland Association of Colored Men in 1908, which later merged with the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. He was also a member of the NAACP and philanthropist for historically black colleges and universities. Whereas Morgan was a member of the Prince Hall Freemasons in Excelsior Lodge number 11 of Cleveland, Ohio, and was a member of the Antioch Baptist Church. Whereas Garrett Morgan made a significant impact on society by his most notable inventions of the 3-position traffic signal and a smoke hood, predecessor to the gas mask, most notably used in the 1916 tunnel construction disaster rescue. Whereas Morgan also discovered and developed a chemically hair processing and straightening solution and created a successful company based on his hair product inventions, along with a complete line of hair care products. Now, therefore, I, John Plummer, Mayor of the City of Paris, by virtue of the authority vested in me, and in recognition of Garrett Morgan, hereby proclaim March 4th, 2021 as Garrett Morgan Day. And I call upon all the citizens of the City of Paris, Bourbon County, Kentucky, to observe this day and recognize Garrett Morgan's contributions to our community. Proud of that. Good job. Thank you all, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Move on to our next item under new business action items. This is discussion of the Energy and Environment Cabinet Agreed Order. Superintendent Smart is here this morning. We'll update you on this matter and where we go from here.
So I think everybody has a fair understanding of kind of what we're dealing with. This started out back in early 2019. We had some high elevations of DVPs. As we kind of started to recognize the problem, started to invest a little more money into how processes and our analyzation equipment, which has helped us get to the point where we are today. We have 4 quarters that are within compliance and kind of looking good. We don't want to jump to conclusions to say we're out of the woods yet, but we are looking pretty good in that aspect. So the agreed order was basically I was able to discuss with them primarily the money that we've spent and to get ahead of this. And then also, they wanted us to make sure that we implement a flushing program, which we kind of do. We did do a pretty good flush last year, and that has helped us to get to where we're at today. We also did a clear well clean out, which to my knowledge had never been done professionally. So that helped us out in the process. So anyway, we're looking pretty good right now. We did get assessed the fine. That was $1,000, which was initially a $3,000. So, but let me say this too. My research showed that at this time there's around between 50 and 70 other communities that are dealing with the same issue that we have. It's not uncommon. Everybody tries to stay ahead of it, but sometimes you can't. The water that we treated yesterday may be absolutely perfect. I got to work this morning and we had turbidities. The creek came up 2 feet. The creek's muddy. Things change. Things change overnight. So I always like to say it helps to have a crystal ball, but we do not have that. So we rely on experience and try to make our adjustments and based on that.
So Chad, you talk about, in the agreed order, talks about disinfectant byproducts or DBPs. What actually are those?
So what we try to remove is total organic carbon, so the TOCs. TOCs and chlorine, when they come together, if you don't oxidate out enough of the TOCs, the chlorine creates a byproduct. That byproduct is where we see out in our system we have a THMs, which is total trihalomethanes, and HAAs, which is haloacetic gases. Those are our two primary issues. HAAs are the reason we are where we're at today. They are both formed based on the TOCs and the chlorine.
So you've heard the view of this matter by Superintendent Smart. The Mayor or Commission have any questions for Superintendent Smart on this matter?
Appreciate you sending that email.
So we do have an agreed order that has come down by the Division of Water. We would need a motion, the mayor to sign off on this agreed order with the stipulation in that agreed order for the $1,000 fine. Is there anything else that?
Yeah, the motion just needs to be to accept the agreed order by the cabinet.
So do we have a motion? Have a motion by the mayor. Is there a second? Second by Brooks to accept the agreed order as proposed by the cabinet. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you have roll call, please?
Commissioner Galbraith,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Gibson,
Yes.
Mayor Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Roberts. Motion carries.
Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
Let me add real quick, we are in the process of doing some plan improvements and looking into the future. That is one thing that we're looking at as well. That we have some opportunity to do some testing, some additional monitoring, and maybe some trial studies, and see if we can maybe eliminate a chemical or two and maybe add something that works a little better. We haven't had any significant changes in years in our plant. So this is a good opportunity to look into that.
Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
Our next item this morning is a resolution supporting adequate state funding for transportation, and this is on page 28 of your packet. Commissioner and Mayor will recall that previously we've had some discussion and you've received some electronic communication from various sources, including the Kentucky League of Cities, in regards to how the state funds transportation activities within the Commonwealth and how that funding formula flows down to cities and counties. And this resolution has been asked of member cities of Kentucky League of Cities to pass to show the support of an adjustment in Frankfort of that transportation funding. And so, resolution supporting the adequate funding by the Kentucky State Legislature to support safe, efficient transportation in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Read that in its entirety. Is there a motion by the commission, the mayor, to execute this resolution?
I'll move.
We have a motion by Galbraith. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Roberts. You got to speak up a little bit quicker. I saw the eyes, but I heard the voice over here. It's ventriloquist, right? So second, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you have roll call, please?
Commissioner Gibson,
Yes.
Mayor Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Roberts,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Galbraith.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item under new business action item is a memo on page 29 of your packet, and periodically we do receive a request from our customers for a rebate for the E911 meter charge. This is available to customers that have more than one water meter fee on their main property. And so the most recent one that we have received was assessed. They had two, and so they are asking for a rebate of the $54 on the second meter. What's the pleasure of the commission?
Motion to approve the request.
I have a motion by Galbraith. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Roberts. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you have roll call, please?
Mayor Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Roberts, Commissioner Galbraith,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Gibson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. No other new business action items come forward. We'll move on to our financial business section. Mr. Oberlander.
Thank you. Good morning, all. I handed out a new page 30 here this morning that should give us a little bit better understanding where we're at on the utility fund receivables. With kind of last week and the craziness of the weather and everything, probably running that right after the due date and doing some analysis on that wasn't really comparative. So, and what I wanted to do with kind of the mid-month is go back to the same time period that we looked at in January and do a comparison on the past due accounts. So I'll just jump down to the bottom part here first. So on January 31st, we had just a little over 1.2 million in outstanding receivables. Through the month to date, we've collected 875,000 on those, leaving really, even though I know it says we have 340,000 there in the current receivables at the bottom, once you factor out all the balances that are under $100 and everything, when we go up to the top, that's basically what gives us our 303,000, or I'll just round up to 304,000 in outstanding receivables at February 22nd. And these would be pretty much what I consider to be past due, even though we still have some balances there in the current. So just looking at the numbers for commercial, you'll see we have 68 commercial entities past due, 4 that have balances that are greater than $5,000. And really kind of the main section that we always look at is that 100 to 500. It's got 46 outstanding commercial accounts. All of those are up from the same time last year. Once again, I'm probably going to think that the weather had some kind of impact on that. And we should probably see that kind of clear up some this week as well too. So on the residential side, you'll see we had 615 total outstanding account balances, 492 in that 100 to 500 range. That's still kind of the concern. Obviously, the two other main categories there under the 5,000 have seen some adjustments downward in those overall balances, especially in the 1,000 to 5,000, and just a slight increase there in the 500 to 1,000. So, good to see the general overall collections for the month. Obviously, kind of going back and looking at month to month there, we do seem to be just slightly ahead on some things, but once again, I think that is kind of more weather related with the timeline and everything. So that is the outstanding utility report.
Any questions of Brad on the outstanding utilities?
We've made some vast improvements, though, just from the 18th to the 22nd, there's been 100,000 in commercial, which is, timing again, but then there's been 55,000 reduction, and I'm looking in the current column. So, but again, I'm not saying, I don't worry so much about the current column as I do when you get over here, but still, if you look over at the 90+ days, it's still, we made huge progress.
Huge, yeah.
November, I'll say November, December, when we really started looking at these things. Knowing when it was winding down, and at some point, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's why I kind of like that middle section there where it breaks it down by the, greater than 5,000 and 1,000 to 5,000. I think that really just gives us a more true picture of how this kind of changes. And, I know from what I saw on the 4, there's probably one business that's in there that's more of a cyclical business that, has never popped up before, but, that's just what you kind of see in some of the trends, so.
And-
Historically, do we see that it's like these commercial businesses have such a large chunk? Does this happen a lot in the winter and they kind of get caught up once business starts?
No, I think this has probably been, out of the ordinary. Usually the commercials, there are some that kind of play around with the due dates, and wait till the month end to pay. But I would definitely think that this is kind of out of the ordinary on the commercial side of it, so, yeah.
We do typically on a monthly basis have 3 commercial customers that go over, that do not make their payment by the 15th of the month. As Mr. Oberlander stated, they usually carry, even though they know that there's a penalty assessed, they carry that forward to the end of the month. One of them, has a major operation here, but a lot of their funding or paying of bills comes from another outside of their company here. And then the one residential customer that is still showing as outstanding, in that we did get notice that customer has filed a bankruptcy, entered into bankruptcy filing, and has named the city of the Paris Utilities, Combined Utilities, as a creditor on that one. So it is a filing, if I recall correctly, that we should be able to recoup down the road at some point in time. It's just a reorganization.
But he did look, it was $6,400.
Yep, and he came
So
in.
there has been payments made against
Yep.
it, so it's down to $5,500, but it was like $6,400.
Any other questions for Oberlander on the outstanding accounts payable?
Thanks, Fred.
All right, let's move on to January financials.
Okay, starting on page 31, and I wanted to try to throw some different information in here, just different looks. And so what you'll see here on the first couple pages are some charts from the ClearGov out on our website. And I apologize, I forgot to type some titles across the top on the first couple ones here. But so this first chart here on page 31 is the government-wide totals for both general fund and utility funds. So budgeted right around 17.9 million. To date, we have collected about 10.1 million in revenues and expended about 8.4 million in payables. So just kind of wanted to summarize that up a little bit better in a graphic for you. The next is government-wide revenues. And so as you'll see, the license fee and electric revenue are our 2 main revenue generators, as well as most of the rest falls over on to the utility fund side as well, with sewer and water. And then the property taxes are about 4th or 5th as far as a revenue source for us. So
Brad, just pause for a second. We have a little delay on our screen, so
Oh.
we need to catch up there for a second. There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. The other thing to note too, investment earnings through the end of January, about 45,000. Intergovernmental revenues, that will include the 220 some in the CARES funding, as well as our PIP and club funds as well. So just so you kind of have a visual of where a lot of the revenues come from. Moving on to page 33 is a breakdown of the expenditures. Obviously, power production is gonna be our largest expense, along with the police and fire. With electric generating the most revenue, we would expect that to be the largest expenditure as well too. And so you can just kind of get once again, get a graphic, and then moving on to page 34, we'll just drill down into the general fund here. So 7.9 million budget, we have revenues of 5.2 so far, with expenditures around 3.8. Once again, you'll see that breakdown on page 35 of the revenues to get a little bit more consistent, just to see how much the tax or license fees are part of the general fund, along with the taxes. And then you also see too, the investment earnings are around 37,000. So the bulk of our investment earnings are coming from over on the general fund side. And then the next graph on page 36 will be the expenditure breakdown. So you kind of have that visual of where a lot of those revenues go to as far as police, fire, and then also our, what we call our community partners as well too. So that's funding for like EMS, 911, EDA. It's right around 13%, police right around 35%, and fire at 23%. And then page 37 has the utility fund, budget just right around 9.9 million. Both revenues and expenditures are really close at this point in time. I'm not sure why it didn't pop up the overall expenditures on there, but I think they're pretty much dead even. So right around 4.8 million for both revenue and expenditures. So once again, page 38, you'll see kind of the breakdown of electric revenues being the bulk of the utility fund side on the revenues. And then moving on to page 39 is the expenditures, where you'll see the power production and disposal plant, or the wastewater treatment plant as well too, two largest expenditures. Okay, so that was some graphs and just some, to give you guys kind of some visuals on where the revenues are coming in and where the expenses are going as well too. So moving on to page 40, look at the cash balances for the general fund. As the end of January, we're sitting at $6,160,000 in operating funds. Compared to last year, we're at 5.2 or 5.3 million, so a good increase from year over year. A lot of that is kind of related to the CARES funding, just over about 900,000 that came in on the CARES funding, so that's what we can kind of contribute that overall cash increase in as well too. Restricted funds, really, we'll start seeing some changes in the municipal aid road fund. I think we have some draws that are coming in for the current year agreement and everything. The rest of the accounts, the police, narcotics, and forfeitures, they really do not change very much, other than if there's some kind of a bust. So those balances usually stay about the same. Moving on to page 41, gives us kind of the summarized format for revenues and also expenditures. I've kind of dropped in just to start giving you guys some ideas on, especially on revenues, when we come to do a new budget amendment, where we will probably be changing some things around. Not necessarily a lot of things will change around in the revenues part of it, other than the debt that we're adding for the police cars, and also to the CARES funding, which you'll see that on page 2 down towards the bottom. So on page 2, just to kind of look over things, total revenues right now 4.86 million. Still kind of looking at a projection of right around 7.7 million. So I have not really, the one column I think that we still just need to kind of factor in as we get into February and March, should be able to work with Stephanie and kind of get that number a little bit more finalized, but it's occupational licenses. Right now we have a budget of 2.8 million, and that's kind of my projection still at this point in time. I'm showing we might go a little bit over that, but I don't want to kind of put that in the projection yet. I just kind of want to keep that at the budget side as well too. So on the so once again on the general fund, we've got Actual revenues at the end of January, 4.8 million, still kind of projecting out 7.7. It's just a little bit shy of our 7.9, but I think that as we kind of go into the end of the year, we'll probably really be close to that number as well too. And I also kind of pulled out, we had planned for use 500,000 from our prior year balance. I've kind of pulled that out of my projection right now just to see how things kind of work out. I'm still working on the expenditure side of it, so that's why I didn't want to kind of drop any numbers in at this point in time. But as you can kind of see right now, a lot of the expenditure columns from a projected standpoint, we're still under budget. So still have a few numbers to kind of look at before we start dropping those in. Police right now is about the only one that's really kind of showing anything overage, and that's not really significant at that point in time. And as you can see, we've got plenty of space from other departments to kind of move in to help cover that as well. So as of end of January, expenditures about 4.1 million, still projecting about 7.53 million. And as of this date right now, you can see we're about 760,000 revenues over expenditures and projected to kind of be at this point in time about 185 or 184,000 revenues over expenditures. However, that could change. Next couple pages is just kind of the detail for the revenues and the expenditures by department and by line item to give you kind of a description where everything's flowing through and being paid out of. And then once we get down to page 60, we'll start the utility fund. Oh, did my cash report not show up for the utility fund? Okay, it is in there, so we'll get to that last. Okay, so on the utility fund side, you'll see revenues right now at 5.8 million, projected to be 9.9 or close to $10 million, close to really what we've got from a budget standpoint. I don't know if, unlike the general fund, there's probably not a lot that we would modify from a budget standpoint, unless we have any kind of debt financing coming in on this part. But so far, our projections are fairly looking good on the revenue side of it. Moving down to the expenditure side, at this point in time, we've got 5.2 million in total expenditures, kind of projecting out 9.7 or just right around 9.8 million. So about $132,000 short of kind of our budget. Like I said, I'm still kind of working on those expenditures. I'm still working with Aaron on some capital expenditures that could possibly change. But at this point in time, we've got enough to, kind of just rearrange by department to make sure everybody balances out and everything. So that's a good thing at this point in time. At the end of January for the utility fund, you'll see we're about 600,000 revenues over budget. Going through the projection process, we're about 205,000 of revenues over expenditures. Obviously, that is subject to change, but that's one thing that we just kind of continue to look at and see how we're trending through the year. So still on a positive note. Then starting on page 61, I think it was down all the way down to page 82, you've kind of got the revenues and once again the expenditure detail by department and line item. So you can see how that the expenditures and things kind of flow through. So then on page 82, we've got the cash balance. And you can see from operating standpoint, we have about 319,000 at the end of January, down from this time last year. We had about 600,000. That is kind of expected. The timing on payroll there from last year is one of those issues that's causing that balance. But obviously, the cash collections is kind of hampering our operating funds as well too. Compared to last month, 454,000 in operating funds, so still kind of seeing that downtrend. And then from a what we would call a restricted standpoint, one thing we did do in January is move more money over into what we kind of call a construction fund, and that really is the meter fees that we collect on each one of the electric bills and everything. That's around a $10 fee that is reserved for future construction and all that. So we are moving that money into that account as well too. So good sign there. And let's see, well. It's about $8,100 in interest income for the month of January. You can see that's down quite a bit from the prior year, around 14,000. So that is everything that we have on the financial reports.
So you've heard the presentation of the January financials. So it's a pleasure of the commission on this information. Motion by Brooks, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Galbert to accept the January financials. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, give roll call, please.
Mayor Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks.
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Gibson. Motion carries.
Move on to payment of invoices.
Okay, so we'll have to go down to page 87 for the, to start with the general fund. There we go. Okay, so on page 87, we'll have the general fund. The overall approval amount that we will need will be $157,923.54. Just to kind of point out a few things that are on here for both Commissioner Gibson and Robert, since you guys are new, is you'll see the monthly transfers about halfway down for a lot of the what we call the community partners, so for EMS, EDA, and 911 coming through on this check run as well too. I think most of the other items that we have on this are fairly consistent, when I say consistent monthly bills as far as phone bills, paying gas bills, fuel bills and that kind of stuff. So that's what on the general fund is for the 157,923.54. On page 88, you will see the utility fund has a total approval amount for $91,954.73. We do have, just, to do some additional explanation on there for T.R. Miller, for the 8,100, you'll see that is supplies for the power plant. Then also to the Citco and some others are supplies for the water treatment plant as well too. So once again, an approval for $91,954.73.
Per the presentation, approval for payment of invoices. What's the pleasure of the commission?
So moved.
Have a motion by Mayor Plummer. Is there a second?
I'll second payment of invoices.
Second by Galbraith. Questions or comments? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, give roll call, please.
Commissioner Brooks.
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Gibson.
Yes.
Mayor Plummer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And then, you'll talk to us about any outstandings, Brad?
Sure, so moving back up to page 83 and 84, you'll see the listing of invoices that have come in for the general fund. At this point in time, we have $16,677 in outstanding invoices. And then page 85 and page 86, you'll see the listing for the utility fund side. That total right now is at $82,524.91.
Questions, Mr. Overlander, on that matter?
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Brad. Move on to our reporting section, and this morning we do have Ms. Lacy here with us to give us an update on her 2020 reflection from work in her department. Good morning, Andrea.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
First of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to take a few moments to go through the summary of the report. This is really a good opportunity for us to look and see what we've accomplished in the past year, which surprisingly, it felt like we were hunkered down for all of 2020, and we were, but we made a lot of progress last year. So I'm going to go through first of all, our long-range planning efforts from 2020. Then I'll talk a little bit about operational progress that we've made within the office. And then lastly, we're going to talk about housing and some of the data from our building permits that we've issued in the past year. So there were two long-range planning efforts that went on last year. First is the comprehensive plan that has been going on for a couple of years now. We adapted really well switching into a virtual format for a lot of our community meetings. In total, we had 17 opportunities for public participation throughout the year and quantified over 250 participants in those activities. One that I will mention was the virtual academy that we put on, where we taught about planning and zoning, and it was a way to solicit input and participation from the citizens that might be interested in serving on boards at some point in time, which we did find, you know, with the establishment of term limits in 2020, that really hit the planning commission, and so we have seen some turnover with the planning commission, but it also, you know, establishes the importance of keeping a pool of interested community members and participating in the future. So we also offered in-person opportunities for participation too. With the comprehensive plan, we had an open house at the YMCA. So we figured out a way to have a socially distanced event. We had over 50 community members and community leaders that attended that event. And it was really important for us to get the maps out, the future land use maps in particular, out in front of the community so that they could provide their input on what changes they would like to be made, what issues they saw that and corrections that needed to be made to the maps. So then finally, we were able to take that input and bring it to the Planning Commission for consideration. This past month, the commission considered it in another in-person hearing, and again, we had about 50 people at that hearing. And so you can look forward to me coming before you all to present both the goals and objectives and the future land use map in a future meeting. The next long range planning initiative was the West Side Neighborhood Plan. This was one that that you all made, were, you know, progressive in deciding to fund that planning effort. That was a $15 investment in developing the plan for
18,000.
Oh, 18. Oh, I'm sorry.
15,000.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I didn't cut the check for that, so. But regardless, that was an investment that you all made in that planning effort. The planning office was really, you know, honored to be a supporting agency in that effort, helping coordinate and facilitate meetings with the neighborhood. Where we're at this point in that process is the plan has been produced, the document is completed, and now the committees are getting ready to branch out and start really, you know, taking ownership over the plan itself. So at this point, we're looking to continue providing technical assistance on that plan. The three committees are housing, infrastructure and public safety, arts and recreation, and economic and workforce development. So there will be opportunities to continue participating in that effort. I think that we're, you know, as we get into getting back to some sense of normalcy, hopefully a lot of those meetings will start occurring in person. But the planning office looks forward to continuing offering that technical assistance, and in fact, we are looking at building some funding into our budget so that we can continue participating in that effort for the 21-22 fiscal year. Now, shifting to our office progress that we made in 2020, I'm really excited to share that we now have online forms that are publicly accessible for our contractors and applicants. So if you have been to our website recently, bourboncountyplanning.com, you'll see that there are icons on the website for applying for an electrical permit, submitting a violation, submitting a complaint on a property, and lastly, applying for a building or demolition permit. This is great for our, what we call frequent flyers, our electricians, you know, especially that come in multiple times per week to take out permits. Now all they have to do is fill out the form and give us a call, and we can process the payment without them ever having to step foot in the building, which is fantastic. So now there is a safeguard for those contractors that are new. they need to go through us first before the permits are issued. So that allows us to learn from them, okay, do you have a business license? And that's one of the first things that we ask them. And then if they do not, we direct them to Stephanie's office and so forth. So if you haven't checked it out yet, go to our website and just take a look at it, because that's something we've taken leaps and bounds over 2020. And who would have thought? I mean, we were already in the process of establishing that online platform. And it hit right when the pandemic hit. So it was impeccable timing. I also want to talk about staff achievements. In 2020, Michelle Thornsberg, our building inspector / code enforcement officer, she obtained her level 2 building inspector license. Now, this allows her to inspect and review plans for commercial structures. And so we're extremely proud of Michelle. And we did do a little bit of digging and some research with the state on, especially in regards to female inspectors, because it's rare, especially in the state of Kentucky, but just in the construction industry, it's rare. So we learned that 9% or 49 of 550 inspectors that are enrolled in Kentucky are female. Now, if you look at the inspectors that are level 2, Michelle is among the top 2% of inspectors in the entire state that have that level 2 certification. So, regardless of gender, we're proud of her, but it was important for us to take a look at that. In 2020 alone, she issued over 150 building permits. As far as reviewing building permits, it's not just, people don't just place the material on your desk and you're done. It takes a handful at least of interactions, making sure that everything's in place and we have all the information we need. So to compound that with code enforcement, when you're talking about violations that were issued in 2020, we had over 250 violations that were issued from our office. 42% of those that were issued were in the West Side neighborhood. So that was an interesting statistic that we pulled out from our violations. Now, in 2019, we were closer to 300 violations that were issued. So we did see kind of a decrease in the number of complaints that were filed through the office, but still a pretty substantial. Each violation, just for your knowledge, it takes somebody calling in. Michelle or myself will go out and check on the property. Sometimes it's a street department. Sometimes it's public works. We do have staff from the city that will let us know about complaints, and so it takes 2 visits: one to check on the property, another one to see if the violation has been remedied. And so you'll see that in the next month, as we're preparing our budget, we are looking into some more strict regulations as far as having a more stringent code enforcement program, so that we can actually start collecting on some of these violations that we're seeing as repeat offenders in particular. On the page here, you'll see that there's a map that shows bad properties. That's blighted, abandoned, or dilapidated properties. Back a few years ago, we developed a map that had, and of course there are probably more that are not on here, but since 2019, we've been tracking which properties have been remediated. And we saw some great progress in 2020 of properties either being, they've been demolished or they've been rehabilitated. And so on the last page of the report, I'll show you some of those properties that have been rehabilitated in particular. Because infill development is, not only is it a costly way to redevelop because of existing infrastructure, but it also is the low-hanging fruit that we want to celebrate, in particular from 2020. So now we'll move on to housing, the housing numbers. So, we were thrilled that in 2020, we actually did not see a downtick in development. We actually saw an increase. So you'll see here on the line graph that's shown, it shows, you know, where we've been from 2014 and how we've progressed over the past couple of years. In 2020, we issued 51 permits for housing units. There was 11.5 million invested in new housing construction. The majority of that housing construction actually happened in the unincorporated county. Now, I will say that at this point, a lot of the major subdivisions that have been approved through the Planning Commission, we haven't seen start construction yet. So once we do see that new construction happening, the balance of, you know, what we're seeing here is going to shift more dramatically toward the city of Paris and new development within the city limits. The median square footage for new single-family housing is a little bit over 2,000 square feet. That has decreased in the past couple of years, and the median cost of construction, now that's materials and labor, that's not including land costs, is $185,500, and that also has reduced since previous years. We did have one major subdivision approved, which was 26 new single-family homes along Clintonville Road. It has been a few years since there's been development of higher density housing like duplexes and apartments and so forth. So it's actually been since 2017 since we've issued permits for that type of housing. So it's primarily been single-family housing that has been constructed. The last bar chart that you'll see on there is showing the breakdown of permits that we've issued and the cost of construction. Again, that's not including land in the breakdown of that. And you'll notice that 30% of the permits that are being issued are for dwellings that are $300,000 or more. So that's, you know, it'll be important for us in the future to look at the breakdown between, okay, what's our median income? Is this matching, you know, people that are working here, that want to live here in particular. And then lastly, on the final page, I want to highlight a couple of projects. So 2020, while 2019 was a lot about industrial development, we had, you know, CMWA and a lot of these big employers that have come in. 2020 has been more along the lines of small business development. So I wanted to highlight a couple of those projects. Of course, one is the project out on Commerce Drive by the Gibsons. And so here is a rendering of that structure. If you go out there today, you'll notice that the foundation is laid. And so in 2020, we had over $1 million invested in new small business development. The Commerce Drive development, we had a small expansion of Bourbontown Pharmacy, which you all had reviewed a zone map amendment for that property. And then we also have an expansion of the commercial retail space at Rocky Drive. And then lastly, some before and afters, because you know, it tells a great story to see, okay, even if it's an individual lot, what the progress has been. We've got one new build in the West Side neighborhood. That's been really exciting for Habitat for Humanity and to see some new construction out in that part. Kentucky Avenue has a new small home that's been developed there. And then on 19th Street, a really beautiful renovation occurred of a house that was previously on our bad properties list. So we're hoping that in the next year, we're gonna start to see a lot more turnover of properties that we've been hammering away on, trying to get these property owners to turn them over to people that want to invest in them. And so these are just a few that we, you know, tracked in 2020. So, so this really, you know, just gives you a little bit of the story, and as I go into giving our budget proposal in the next couple of weeks, it should be a good segue. You know, some of the information that's in here, I'm gonna build upon in our budget proposal, and I'm looking forward to presenting that to you all soon. So, do you have any questions for me? Thanks for giving me a few minutes. I know I can be long-winded, but
Andrea, is there any way for us to look at the new construction that has occurred within the city of Paris and break that down to the cost of construction for those pieces of properties? So we would know what's occurring within the city limits?
Absolutely.
And the,
Yeah.
and the square footage of those?
Yeah,
I think that
yeah.
would be good information for us to have.
Yeah, definitely. I could package it up and email it out to you all.
I think that would help us also as we talk economic development and people coming in and looking at
Right.
and that. And, so yeah, if you could get us that information, that would be helpful.
Great, sure.
Thank you. It's great information.
Yeah, that's
Appreciate it.
great presentation.
Thanks.
Hey, Andrea,
Thank you.
the only comment I was gonna make is,
I'd be
I'm gonna say-
surprised if we didn't.
I understand. You're never too old to learn, okay?
I know.
Okay, all right. When did you come on board?
2016.
Okay, I was gonna say, I'm thinking of the reports we get today and where we are today compared to prior to 2016. And, you know, it's been a direct reflection on everything that's going on in Bourbon County, as you've said more than once about COVID and this, you know, in spite of what's going on in the world and, you know, in particularly with COVID. Where we are today, we may not be where we wanna be, but the progress that we've made, and you're a big part of, and your department has been a big part of that, because again, it's come through the funding side of it, and you know, and it's allowed us, because before you came on board, we were trying to make do with a one part-time executive director in planning and zoning, 1 day a week. And I mean, and we were getting those results, but this is, you know, far and above. And when you put it all together like that, it's like, you know.
Yeah,
We've done a
it's
heck of a
it's a
job.
nice activity
Oh.
to do, and just, you know.
Right, but thank you for your always
But
work.
I will say, even though we're not seeing an explosion of growth, I mean, our focus is being proactive and setting ourselves up so that when we do start to see that activity, we're ready for it. And I'm telling you, we're ready. I mean, we've got the online system. We're ready for it. We're about as efficient, you know, with the staff capacity that we have right now. We're with the times now. So Bourbon County is with the times now.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And one,
Yeah.
you mentioned in your report the iWork
Yeah.
program. One of the things that Superintendent Smith and I've been looking at from a public works standpoint is the ability to have an online platform for the folks to report potholes and things like that they may see. Does that iWork have a component that we might be able to marry our interest in looking to be proactive as you meet with what you're doing?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it probably would be the most cost-effective way to approach it, because, you know, we pay, the planning office, we pay about $10,000 currently per year for that. That's, you know, credit card processing, that's, in even I think Mike Withrow and Billy Doyle and, you know, some of the inspectors from the city have access to that system currently. The add-ons are usually for modules, you know, around $2,500. So it's a drop in the bucket, you know, as far as that's concerned. So definitely, yeah, we can talk more about how to collaborate with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on. I did hand out this morning, we did get, after the packet went out, we got the activity report from January from the Paris and Bourbon County Tourism. So that is been distributed hard copy for your review. Move on to departmental reports for those that are here. Ms. Morton, do you have anything for this morning? Mr. Oberlin, do you have anything else?
No, nothing additional.
Chief Duffy?
I got a couple things there, and I'll throw out here. One, we got a new pickup truck in for the replace the Type 1. Those items have been ordered at this point to, I guess, equip it. We put a winter care program kind of in place a couple weeks ago, once the ice and snow apocalypse hit. We did 5 or 6 medical transports throughout that, also in conjunction with the police department as well. About 10 to 15 medical prescription runs, drop-offs, 2 surgery transports were done over that time period. Obviously, we were a little busy doing other stuff as well as that. We also assisted through the EMS board. People will know we assisted the health department with vaccines for St. Mary's School, Paris City Schools, and Bourbon County Schools this past weekend. I think we assisted them, and they were around 250 or so vaccines given out over Friday and Saturday. We had personnel out there assisting with that, and ambulance staffed in case something were a reaction were to happen whenever we did that. We're getting ready to do another 3rd round of first responders, probably the week of March 10th, to finalize the rest of police, fire, and EMS scattered throughout all Bourbon County between the volunteer departments as well as the 2 paid departments and police, sheriff, and constable's office. That's about all we got. A lot. We had a few fires kind of mixed in there. We've had a busy couple weeks.
And the commission is aware because shared with it, but we had an interesting fire for a house that was built over a tree stump.
Yes. The fire was knocked out pretty quick. From the time the guys got on scene till the time I actually got there was about 30 minutes. The time I got called out of my house and got dressed and got there. The fire was actually put out before I got there. We spent the next 4 hours fighting a tree stump that was on fire underneath the structure that was actually holding the house up. I've been doing my job 25 years and I've never seen that in my whole entire career. So there's new stuff that happens every day. Yes.
Thank you. Chief Thomas? No? Withrow? Settles? Bowman? Have anything? Commissioner Gibson?
Yes, last meeting, we talked about updating the website, and, forwarded to you, and Lacey updated description, contact information, et cetera, from Bourbon County Architectural Review Board, Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee, Joint Board of Adjustment, Bourbon County Joint Planning and Zoning, Paris Pike Corridor Commission. Well, I also got one from Lauren Biddle for the Chamber of Commerce description. Shelley Mann I contacted her, and she's gonna get a description for the Emergency 911 Board. The Prophet, I emailed her, she referred me to Judge Executive Mike Williams, and he emailed back that they will get a description for us. Betty Ann Allen emailed the description, et cetera, for the Bourbon County Chamber of Commerce. So there are about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 that I don't know who is in charge of those boards. So I will be needing to reach out and ask who those are. But everyone that I mentioned, they got back with me. And I think that once we put that in place, Andrew even had attached some links to their website and everything. I think that'll just make it a whole lot easier for citizens when they go on the website to take a look and they'll kind of know where to go and what these are about. So I still want to continue with that project. And another thing that I had was for Mr. Oberlander. Are you going to do a report on what controls that the finance department is going to put in place for the deficiencies that were found in the audit?
Yeah, we can do that next meeting.
All right. That's all I have.
Commissioner Galbraith?
I don't have anything.
Commissioner Roberts?
I do. There's going to be inaugural celebration at Paris High School on March 4th at 6 p.m. for Garrett Morgan. Like to join us?
Will that be in the cafeteria or?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
March 4th at 6 p.m.
I guess vote two, I had reached out to you about the recycle center.
Uh-huh.
I have been, asked by a few people, you know, if that's still working, can you still drop things off, all that. I hadn't gotten a reply back just yet from you.
I believe, well, I'll go back, but I did send a reply out that talked about the transfer station, that all that had been moved. Previous commission had authorized the closing of the 19th Street property, originally based on COVID, and then later based on some deficiencies in that, but that the transfer station is accepting all recyclables, even from the county, there at the transfer station, so they can take that. I'll resend that.
And then the other, question I had over the past week was about our park systems. I had a citizen email and say that, you know, hey, we have this new joint parks and recreation. I understand that that's important, but what about the parks that we have that people can actually walk to? And, you know, this is over in the, 50th Avenue area for Garrett Park. It was asked about the shelters and the tennis courts that have been taken out. I understand that's in floodplain, but they said, you know, that was a nice area for that neighborhood, and you could actually go to it easily with the kids that could walk to it and from William Park. And so, you know, what is going to be happening with those in the meantime?
So the two things there. So the institution of the Joint Parks and Recreation Commission that was put together by the City of Paris and Bourbon County Fiscal Court, they oversee all the parks. The new planning that's going on for the new park, that the county has purchased the property, and where the, last year they did the cross-country meets and that type of thing. Right now it's outside the purview of that joint parks, but the intention, as I understand it, and Mr. Brooks can talk as the member on there, is that eventually will be brought as part of that under the joint parks. So existing parks are under the purview of the joint parks and recreation.
I think her concern was that it looks like Garrett Park is going downhill as far as for actually have recreation in.
Well, have her give me a call.
All right.
We're working on both, you know, all the parks, not just, you know, Garrett Park. Garrett Park is in the process of getting those shelters and things, fixed up. Now, tennis courts have been removed because we can't really have them. We want to make green space and park lots. We can't use those for because they aren't put on the food space. So, if you want to have her give me a call, I'll put her down.
She also asked where the Garrett Park sign is, that it was evidently taken down.
We're working on that.
That's in work.
We are working to get that put back.
All right, good.
Just have her give me a call.
Thank you.
I have none.
Commissioner Roberts, did you have anything else?
No.
I'm sorry, I
No,
missed
you're
that. Mayor? Nothing else to come before the body this morning. Is there a motion for adjournment? I have a motion by Brooks.
Second.
Second.
You heard that, didn't you?
Madam Clerk, there we have an enthusiastic second. Could you have roll call, please?
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Gibson,
Yes.
Mayor Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks. Motion carries.
Thank you. We stand adjourned.